Hey there and welcome to Plants vs. Germans. Today I would like to talk about some tips and tricks on how to care for your monkey puzzle trees so that they won't look like these four. As you can see here, I've been growing quite a few of those monkey puzzle trees, mainly from seed. I've been doing this for around 2 years now, so I have a few tips and tricks that might help you. Those you see here are only a year old. You can also see some difference already. This one is one of my oldest monkey puzzle trees. It has some branches that are quite long. Same goes with this one here and those. And some of the others are a bit smaller. Today I'll talk about the main topics that I'll put on screen right now. I'm not going to talk about how to grow monkey puzzle trees from seed. That's going to be a separate video soon. When you grow your monkey puzzle trees from seed, you have a few options with your pot sizes. The first one is the small one right here. The seed is about this big, so this should be fine too. The next one is a medium-sized pot for a bit bigger plants, and this is a big pot that is quite deep. I started off most of my plants in this small pot here. The problem is that the monkey puzzle trees grow a really strong root that goes deep really quickly, so it gets quite long. And when you have a small pot like this, it probably will reach the bottom here quite fast. And it will start spreading the roots down low here. And if you get unlucky, they die because they get into contact with the air. So I would actually recommend planting your monkey puzzle trees in bigger pots like this, especially when you start off. If you have a lot of room, a lot of space, use a big pot like this. Then the roots aren't obstructed by the pot. They can just grow down all the way here and you'll have really nice plants. I had a lot of root rot. A lot of my plants were in rough shape. So I would definitely recommend this option if you have a lot of space. If not, you can use this for at least the first 1 or 2 months, but then I would definitely switch to a bit of a bigger pot here. For the soil, you can just use regular soil here that you can get in any shop, and it works perfectly fine, although monkey puzzle trees tend to like a bit more acidic soil, but you definitely won't have any problems just planting it in regular garden soil. When I first planted the seeds, I used some soil without any fertilizer in it. That can help, especially if you don't have enough sun yet, but if you plant them outside, especially during spring, it should be fine just to plant them in regular soil. But if you want to be careful, if you don't want to burn your plants right away with the nutrients, use some non-fertilized soil first, but then rather quickly plant them in your regular garden soil. Probably the most important part when you care for your monkey puzzle trees is watering them correctly. They are super stingy when it comes to overwatering. So if the soil is constantly wet, that's actually the reason why most of my monkey puzzle trees that died. I had them in a fairly dark place. It was really damp. They had no chance of getting rid of their moisture in the soil, and that's what led to root rot. If that ever happens, what you should do fairly quickly and not as late as I did, as you can see, most of my plants here that survived have a bit of damage, is get them out of the wet soil and put them into some new, nice, dry soil. I wouldn't recommend, especially if the soil isn't that dry, don't water right away. You could just put a bit of water on top here. I wouldn't really put them into a water bath and not let them soak in all the water for a few hours, because that would just lead to more root rot and the roots will die. As soon as the roots die, you have a really high chance of killing your plants. So the plants are actually quite resilient. What you should do with watering is let them dry off almost completely once. You can just always lift up the cup and see if it's heavy or not. If it's heavy, I wouldn't recommend watering. If not, you can water and maybe put them into like a water bed or fill up their tray with water and let them sit in it so the soil has some chance to actually store the water and you won't have to water as often. Normally during summer, if you have the plants outside in the sun, I would recommend watering like once a week. Oftentimes you don't have to water that much if you have them outside and they get a bit of rain. Make sure to actually get the water out of your trays. If they sit in there for 2-3 days, that could actually already lead to root rot and you don't want your plants to die. It's always sad to see your plants that you've grown from seed die. Fertilizing monkey puzzle trees is an easy task. What I normally do, or what I recommend to do, is get a basic fertilizer. It doesn't have to be an expensive one, and just give some into the water that you water your plants with about once a week, especially during summer. They actually need quite a bit of fertilizer. As you can see, the new leaves are quite light in color, and especially during summer they were really light because I forgot to fertilize a lot, and as soon as I started fertilizing, the leaves turned this darker color here again. So in the summer I actually recommend fertilizing once a week. Maybe don't put as much fertilizer into the water as it would normally need to fertilize a plant, but you can definitely put in some once a week. And during winter they don't need as much, but I would definitely still recommend watering sometimes, like once a month, once every 2 weeks. All depends on where you store it, and you might just put a pinch of fertilizer into the water too. So where should you keep your monkey puzzle trees? During summer I would recommend them staying outside. The same goes for spring and fall, because they're quite hardy, especially when they're young too. So as adult plants, they're hardy during winter, so they won't die off during winter, but that starts around third year. They tend to tolerate cool weather, but when they're young, I wouldn't really stress them that much with -1, -2, -3 degrees Celsius. Up to 0 degrees should still be fine. Especially when you try to grow them from seed, you have to keep them in the fridge for at least around 4 to 8 weeks, so they're used to cool weather. And they actually sprout during this time too. Even as young plants, if you have them outside right away, after they sprout, you can definitely leave them in full sun during the afternoon. They don't get sunburned that easily. The leaves are quite thick, as you can see, so they can tolerate the heat a bit, especially when they're used to it. Don't put your plants into the full sun in summer if you kept them inside before. Please don't do that. Actually, the best place to store your monkey puzzle trees during the winter would be a windowsill like this one, in a hallway or maybe a room that is normally not heated, so that the temperature is not around 18, 19, 20 degrees Celsius, rather like 10 degrees, 12 degrees. That would be perfect. Down to 5 degrees Celsius would be the optimal temperature for your monkey puzzle trees to keep over winter. I keep those one inside already, mainly because I don't have enough space in my greenhouse. But as you can see, even here, I have one that got overwatered, had way too much moisture in the soil, and unfortunately died off because of it. I hope this video motivated and helped you to grow some own monkey puzzle trees. Subscribe if you would like to see more videos on my garden and on different plants. See you next time.